All right, here we go. The Hunt and Land Man Podcast, episode 68. Hard to believe we've been doing it for 68 episodes, but here we go. Gonna knock out a quick one today. This is all about market rust and why it matters more than ever. Before we get too far, this podcast is always brought to you by Southern Ag Credit. They take great care of us. If y'all just knew the conversations we have to get deals done with Southern Ag Credit, that they get done, then I'm not saying nobody else can get done, but I'm saying they do a great job of getting it done. You need a team to get a property from contracted to close. And Southern Ag Credit, they're a great person to have and a great company to have on your team. All right, market rust. What do we mean by market rust? Okay, so market rust is a property goes on the market and it sits there, let's say 6 months, and you're like, oh, I don't want to look at that. Something must be wrong with that property. And that may be the case. Or maybe the agent did not market it well, or maybe, there's just a lot of factors. Maybe the property didn't show well the first couple times, or maybe it was the time of the year it went on the market. We're going to address some of those items and how we can, if you're a seller, prevent market rust, and if you're a buyer, maybe use market rust to your advantage. All right. Well, this is the reason it matters more than ever. I've been doing this 18 years now, and with technology, used to be websites 18 years ago were a thing, but that's not where everybody looked. People got they found their properties maybe in the paper, in the newspaper. Y'all young listeners out there, there used to be an actual newspaper people read every day. I know it's not as much of a thing anymore. 18 years ago, social media wasn't even a tenth of what it is now. So social media wasn't that big a deal either. Your email list, things like that. Literally, somebody had to see it in like a Louisiana Sportsman or Mississippi Sportsman print ad or the paper or things like that. The world was harder to reach 18 years ago, even 10 years ago. So what used to take me, let's say when we first got going in the real estate game, in order to reach, let's say, 95% of the audience that I wanted to reach from a marketing standpoint, that would probably take me 3 to 6 months, for them to happen to see it. I really feel like with technology today, I can reach that same 95% in a week, 10 days, maybe less. I'm going to say I'm going to reach 75% of them within 3 days, because, okay, first of all, if you're on my email list, you're getting the email with all the information day one. All right. If you're on our social media, that's another platform. You're going to see it the day we get it listed. It's going to go on every website within about 3 days that land can go on, from your Land Watch to United Country to every site it can go on. And that's where people are searching. I think something like 96% of searches for property start online. Now, it may start online about another property and go to the property you end up buying, but online is where it starts, and I think if you want to be on top of that game, get on my email list is a very, very important thing. You hear about properties as soon as they go on the market. All right, if you're a seller, how can we prevent market rust to happen to your property? First of all, price it correct to start with. I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation, and every real estate agent has this conversation. We can start there. Somebody wants, let's just say it's a $100,000 property, and somebody says, I'd like to really try to get $130,000 for it. Well, in order to get $130,000, you got to start at, say $149 or $140 to get some negotiation room in there. And you may never get a chance. Let's say the property is actually worth $100,000. You may never get a chance to get it sold for $100,000 again because you started too high. Because you start too high, then the property gets market rust on it, and then nobody will go look at it. Your best time to market that property is, I'm going to say, in the first 30 days. Price the property correct and be a little more stern on your asking price. Because if you ask too much, us as real estate, we'll never get the call because somebody will type it in their calculator and say, man, it costs too much. So we'll never get the call to be able to go to negotiate and get your property sold for what it's actually worth. Of course, we want to get you every dollar we can for your property. That's our fiduciary duty. Plus, the more you make, the more we make. So we want to get you the most money for your property, but at the same time, you want to be realistic. Remember, if an agent's telling you something that's too good to be true, It very well may be too good to be true. Uh, Beware of agents and people telling you what you want to hear, not the truth. If I go sit down and 5 other realtors sit down with you and say, hey, your $1 million property, oh, I can get you 1-2 for it. And your ears perk up. Oh, man, he can get me 1-2. What does he know that everybody else don't? Beware of people telling you what you want to hear and not the truth. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten in trouble, quotes, from sellers by telling them, look, it's just not worth that. I had one last week, we lost a deal over it because, I thought the property was worth $900,000 and somebody else told them it was worth $1.2 million. And I just said, look, it's not worth that. I don't care what we do to it, how we market it. It's just not worth that. It won't appraise for that. So listen to your realtor and remember, if it's too good to be true, you may want to pay attention to that. It may be too good to be true. All right. In order to price it correctly, you see the comps. What we do whenever we come out and look at a property is we're going to look at the comps of your property and say, okay, where does your property fit in with the comps? Just because your neighbor's property sold for $5,100 an acre doesn't mean your property is worth $5,100 per acre. There may be some that sell for $3,000. There may be some sell for $5,000. Where does your property fit into that game on the comparable sales? Because every property is not the same. There's timber, there's road frontage, there's area, there's particular counties, there's particular areas of hunting that sell for more. All things that can make your property sell for more or less. One thing you can do to prevent market rust is to make your property as desirable as possible. Look, us as agents, we're working hard for our families every day, and we're working for you to get your property sold. So if the trails are clipped, if there's no trees across the road, if the property looks good in general in that first 30 days, it's going to help to sell that property. I'm going to say little things like clipping, make sure your roads are good, things like that. The money and time you spend on that, I'm going to say in general, it probably pays you $5 for every $1 you spend. So let's just say you got 100 acres, you spend $1,000, getting it cleaned up or whatever. I bet it's going to pay you $5,000 or $10,000 more and it's going to help the property sell for faster because people get a good feeling when they're out on the property, and that's what you want. So make your property desirable so you don't get that market rust. If you're, we're not perfect on the pricing game. We do our best I can to price our property, but if we're too high or that those things happen sometimes. And sometimes we try to be a little higher to try to push the envelope to get you as much as possible. But the market will tell you everything you need to know. So if your property has been on the market, let's say 45 days, all right, let's have a conversation with your agent and yourself and say, okay, what kind of activity are you getting? Do we like it? What's the negatives? What's the positive? What can we do better? By the time you hit 60 days, it may be time to do a little price drop. And I said a little price drop. You don't have to do a huge price drop, but when you price drop it, there's reasons to market the property again. It'll go to the top of some of the websites because it's a price change, and it will show the world that, hey, they're willing to negotiate. So don't be afraid to make a price change and listen to the market. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. Also, asterisk to that, time of the year matters a lot. If if your property's on the market this time of the year, it's probably going to take a little longer to sell in the recreational game because, summer months are typically a little slower. If it's on the market October, November, all the way through the end of hunting season, deer season, it should sell faster, or historically it's sold for faster if priced correctly. All right, here we go. Options for your property that has been on the market for a while, okay? It's been on the market. We're worried about market rust, which you need to be worried about market rust if your property's been on the market for a while. Okay, there's a couple options. Drop the price. We talked about that. And remember, you can drop the price sometimes and just be more firm with your negotiations, and you may get to that number faster than if you didn't drop the price. There's always options, if your property has a lot of road frontage or is able to be split up. Smaller properties sell for more because you bring more buyers to the table. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you've got 100 acres and your property's listed at $4,000 an acre, that's $400,000. There's literally probably 5 times as many people that can afford a $200,000 place as opposed to a $400,000 place. So It gets it in more people's price ranges. And the way people search online is they go to these websites usually, and they say, my budget is 400,000 and up or 300,000 and up, and they search like that. So sometimes it'll appear in searches way more if you put it out there like that you will split up. Even if you put in the article or in the description, hey, the seller's willing to split that up. These guys that are looking for a $200,000 property, they may never see it because your property's listed at 400. They may not read into it that much. Also, we're doing this on a listing next week. Redo some pictures, get some fresh inventory of pictures. If the time of the year changes, if it's maybe you just planted all the food plots and it's looking real good, maybe go redo those pictures and, have your agent send out some social media and marketing for that. And it may catch somebody that has since passed, because it doesn't take but one picture or one thing for somebody to say, ooh, I like that. And they click a little bit more and look a little bit more and maybe call me or your agent and say, hey, tell me more about this property. That's what we want. The marketing out there is to get the call. The property will sell itself. If the property is good, it'll sell itself. Either it fits the client's goals or not. It's our job as agents to provide the best information possible to make your property appear realistic, but the best it can online. All right. That's pretty much, everything from a seller standpoint is market rust. There's, of course, some other little things, but that's the main things. Okay, as a buyer, what does market rust mean for you? Typically, it means somebody you can negotiate a little bit more on a property because maybe the seller doesn't have the leverage. It's already been put out there on the market. So if you're a buyer and you see a property that's been floated out there 6 months and it's still for sale, don't be afraid to make an offer. It's only worth what it's worth to you. So if you've been looking at a property and you think you like it, but you're like, I don't know, it's been on the market 6 months, that may be your opportunity to get a property for a good price. Because remember, sometimes money is not the main driving factor in somebody selling a piece of property. Maybe it's timing, or maybe they're just ready to wash their hands of it. They don't feel like keeping it up anymore. Maybe they're in a financial bind and they need to get rid of it, and they're like, okay, I was hoping to get A, but B's close enough, let's roll on. So that happens a lot. So as a buyer, use market rust to your advantage. Maybe you can negotiate a little bit harder. And have your agent, if it's me or anybody else, let's say if somebody else has a property list and you call me, Slade, I want to look at this, it's been on the market a while. Well, use that to your advantage. Say, hey, look, I've seen it's been on the market for 200 days and y'all hadn't had an offer. I'm giving you a good offer. This is not a bad offer. And comps, make sure your agent is, like we talked about last week with negotiations, make sure your agent is representing you well and negotiating well so that he knows the market good enough. He knows where your offer fits into that market, so he can explain that to the agent or the seller, however it may come about. All right, that's all we're going to talk about on market rust today. Just to kind of conclude this podcast, number 68. It is what we are recording this in early June. We're finishing up our summer food plots right now. I'm planting them a little later than some people, not because I think it's the best time for horn growing, but I want them to be good for velvet season and the first week of October for both seasons. So we're planting some bachelor pad. You heard me talk about it before. I think it's the best thing you can plant here in the South for summer food plots. Alley's clover, joint vetch, and iron clay peas. I think it's a great product. It does really good. I planted it on my own stuff. I believe in it. We're getting some feed out right now, getting everything lined up, getting cameras out, getting minerals out. In about 2 weeks to a month, in about 2 weeks to a month, deer will start getting recognizable. So maybe you're looking for that big deer out there that is, that you saw made it last year. Maybe he's got a split G2 or a split brow. You will start being able to recognize these deer very soon from now. Hold on just a second. Asa, is that you? Whistling? Asa. Sorry about that. My little girl was whistling and distracting me. That's why I was losing my words a little bit. I was like, what is that noise? But anyway. All right, so the deer will start becoming recognizable in the next couple of weeks. So get your cameras out, get your minerals out. This time of the year, if you don't want to feed and stuff, if you get your minerals out, you will find those deer this time of year and start getting a game plan for those deer. What I mean by start getting a game plan, summer food plots. If you need to move some stands around, if you need to build some food plots, if you need to do some habitat work, all that kind of stuff, we've got time to do that now. So now's the time to do that. Be aware. Fawns are dropping. Zeb saw one in the last couple of days right around here. Fawns are dropping. I've seen some pictures online of people seeing fawns already. And baby turkeys are out and about. Our hens are about to nest. So be aware of that. Be careful what you're mowing and where you're going. We should be mostly done with turkeys. They should mostly be hatched, but I guarantee you some nests are still out there. So be careful of that. As far as the real estate market, we're getting a lot of listings right now. In the past 10 days, we have gotten 3 under contract, so things are starting to move a little bit. We've got some really good properties, and don't be like the rest of the world who's not going to worry about their hunting properties this time of year. Let's get you in a hunting property. You got less people negotiating them right now, so you can get a better deal, and you have time to do all the things we talk about getting, getting ready for those deer this fall. That's all we're going to talk about today. Episode 68, Market Rust, why it matters. It's a real thing, and I haven't heard anybody else talking about it like this, or why it happens so much faster than it used to. But don't let market rust happen to your property. And if you're looking to buy a property and a property's been on the market for a while, use it to your advantage. Thank y'all and have a blessed day.